Hello, everybody. Welcome to the finale conclusion of political parties. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. And I also hope you guys enjoy the assessment you're doing Thursday and Friday. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you guys do that, especially if you choose the one involving debates. But anywho, today we're going to talk about how elections work and how you go from being like in Mr. Shoens' classroom all the way to a podium as President of the United States. Once we finish this unit, we're doing our last unit of the year, which might not be the actual last unit of the year, but the last one I need to cover, which is economics. So if you've been looking forward to talking about money, next week is for you. So, how to get nominated to become President of the United States 101. Are you interested in being President of the United States, or maybe a senator, or a representative, or a governor, or a mayor, or any political position? Well, are you aware of just how do you go from sitting like in Mr. Shones' classroom, or in this case, sitting in your home because of the quarantine, to eventually being at that podium like Hillary Clinton as a presidential nominee? Well, let's investigate how that is done. And it's really four simple steps. First, there is something known as a nomination. So, a group of people in a political party will look throughout their entire political party and find someone worthy of a position. So, whether it be president, whether it be representative, senator, governor, mayor, whatever it may be, they'll look for people and be like, hey, that might be a really good person for that position. And then they will officially nominate them. Uh, then they might have like a big party and all that different stuff. But that does kind of lead to a question. What if multiple people are nominated? Just like Oprah Winfrey used to give out multiple cars in every one of her shows, sometimes your party might give out multiple nominations because they feel that there are a few people that might be good for a certain position. You saw that very recently with the Democrat Party, who had about 8 different presidential candidates up for contention. You had people like Joe Biden, you had people like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and so forth. Ultimately, only one person can be president of the United States, so that's where the remaining steps can be. And before we talk about those steps, does this mean, Mr. Shones, before we even go forward, that if I don't have a political party, I'm just doomed? No. Some people do run for offices, especially the lower ones, not necessarily president of the United States, but like the local ones, like mayor, as something known as a non-partisan candidate, which means someone who doesn't align with any political party. In some cases, it might actually work out pretty well. Moving forward, step 2, have a caucus. A caucus is simply a meeting of supporters or members of a specific movement, in this case, a political party. So your political party would meet and discuss how you guys are going to do this. Because anybody can nominate anybody, but like, do they really legitimately have a good shot? Like, if we were all in the same political party in a classroom and we decided to nominate one person in the class, that person might be great for the office, but if someone else does nominate someone else and they have like no shot to beat that person, then maybe it would be best not to waste anybody's time. So they'll have a meeting and they'll discuss who the nominees are, why they should be nominated, how we're going to figure out which one ultimately gets to be on the ballot, all that different stuff. And then they're going to have something known as a primary election. Now, this is one of the perks of being in a political party, because if you're not in a political party, you don't vote in these. All a primary election is an election that political party will host, basically where people in that political party exclusively, so if it's a Republican primary, Democrats can't vote in it. If it's a Democrat primary, Republicans can't vote on it. Basically deciding who do you want to run for office. We saw that very recently with the Democrats, albeit it kind of got weird with the coronavirus and then all the people dropping out, but you get the idea. So you had a bunch of candidates like a Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, whoever it may be, and Democrats voted in these primary elections picking who the candidate should be. And then ultimately, once they got enough votes, Joe Biden became the Democrat nominee. And then he had like Skype calls with Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama and so forth. So, long story short, those candidates will have a primary election to figure out who gets the nomination. Now, there is another type of primary called presidential primaries. This is simply just the debates for presidential candidates. Long story short, you might see these really great debates on TV and stuff like that. And before they get to the actual primary election, they'll have something known as a presidential primary. So these are like big deal, like, hey, we really need to focus in on this one because obviously the president's the most important position. You probably saw all those different debates and yada, yada, yada. But the biggest thing is during all that different stuff in this step 3 situation, Republicans only vote for Republican candidates, Democrats only vote for Democrat candidates. When we get to the general election, you can pick whoever. Now, that being said, the last one, the general election, this is the one that's on November 3rd. This is the one where you'll have a ballot, which you saw a little bit of a ballot yesterday, and I hope you got that done, or if not, get it done by tomorrow. And you pick whoever candidates you want. So you won't see a ballot with like 10 Democrats or 10 Republicans on it. At that point, it'll be just one per political party. So in the case of November 3rd, you're going to see a ballot that has President Trump and his vice president, Joe Biden and his vice president pick, and obviously you will vote for them along with the other stuff you vote for, which you saw on the worksheet yesterday. And then in the general election, everybody can vote. Independents can vote, Republicans, Democrats, and you don't have to vote for your party. So if you see at the end of the primaries, like, oh man, that party actually has a pretty good candidate, even though I'm on the other party, you can vote for whoever you want. Doesn't matter. Now, when it comes to the president, though, and campaigning as president of the United States, before we get to any general elections and stuff like that, that presidential candidate has to go around the country and tell people why they should vote for that person. Uh, Presidential campaigns can be pretty long. The last time back in 2016, since this one isn't quite done, Hillary Clinton campaigned for 597 days. That's more than a year going around the country telling people how to vote. And when they're visiting the country, they give speeches, they go to specific states based on their views, and talk to the people as to why they should vote for them. If you notice on that map, everything on red is a Republican state, everything in blue is a Democrat state, and everything in gray is something known as a swing state. Swing states are just like a swing. They can swing left, they can swing right. They could be blue, they could be red. It just really depends on who the candidate is. Why I'm taking the time to emphasize this, because one, candidates will spend a lot more time in swing states because there's no point in a Democrat going to California when 99% chance California is going to vote Democrat anyways. Same with a Republican in Texas. There's no point for Republicans to campaign in Texas because Texas most likely is going to vote Republican regardless. They spend the time in swing states. And another reason why swing states are important is, yeah, you guys ultimately live in one. Florida's about 50-50 Republican Democrat. So moving on, they do more than just campaigning though. They also debate in front of each other, the Republican and Democrat candidates, just like in the 2016 election with President Trump and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. There's 3 formal debates during a presidential election, so it might be a little bit weird this year because we have the whole coronavirus thing. So eventually you'll see Joe Biden and President Trump debate each other. It might be like a hilarious Zoom call. That would be funny to watch. But you kind of get the idea. And it'll have things like moderators, which if you do the debate thing on Friday, you'll kind of see what that's like. And then once they get through all the campaigning and they get through all the debates, they get to election day. And then the people vote. And depending on how the votes go, that's who's going to be in office. However, it's not the popular vote that picks president of the United States. It's actually the electoral vote. The popular vote, in case you don't know what that is, it's how many actual votes the President of the United States receives when it's all said and done. The electoral vote is how many electoral votes you get as President of the United States. The one that matters is electoral votes. You need 270 electoral votes to win the presidency. What's interesting about this, especially with the last election we had, President Trump did not win the popular vote. But if you look back here, he overwhelmingly won the electoral vote. Now, popular votes are the actual number of individual votes. So some people thought that Hillary Clinton was robbed because it's like there's obviously about 2 million more votes for Hillary Clinton. Why didn't she win? Well, that's the whole point of the Electoral College. They're a body of people who represent the states of the U.S. and formally cast their votes, known as electoral votes, for President of the United States. They vote based upon how you vote. So there's 29 electoral votes and electoral voters in Florida. They will vote whoever gets the most votes in Florida. So in the case of 2016 election, President Trump got the most votes in Florida, so he got 29 votes. Um, Now, a lot of people criticize the Electoral College, saying that it's a broken system and shouldn't the person who receives the most votes be the one who gets the position? And, well, if you don't know history, it's very easy to see it that way, but this is actually how the Electoral College was designed. They designed it this way so that way big states would not be bullies when it comes to elections. When it comes to populations, if you took 9 states, California, Michigan, Florida, Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and you can take your pick when it comes to Ohio, or Carolinas, etc. If you got the 9 most populated states in the US, then the other 41 states would not matter. The Electoral College was designed to make the little states still matter when it comes to elections. And it's done that throughout all of our country's history. Many presidents have won the election without necessarily winning the popular vote. And that's how the founding fathers wanted to design it. So that way the big populated states like New York or Florida or Texas or California couldn't just control elections. It's not fair for the other 40 states in our union. If that stuff sounds familiar about the little states mattering and stuff like that, yeah, remember that stuff, that whole debate, whether it be the Virginia plan, the New Jersey plan, that stuff went way back, first quarter even. And again, as I pointed out, realistically, if a candidate, if it was done by popular vote, just got 9 states, those specific 9 states to be exact, 41 states votes would not matter. And if I don't know about you, but 41 is well over half of 50. But anywho, that's why the Electoral College, in short summary, I wish I could go more into it, but obviously, time-wise. What if someone doesn't get 270 electoral votes, though? If that doesn't happen, then the election is decided by the House of Representatives. It's only happened once for President number 6 with John Quincy Adams. Basically, the House of Representatives just votes, and whoever gets the most votes wins. It's an uneven number, so you get the idea, so it can't be a tie. That's basically how the campaign and how you get to President of the United States after being nominated. But how much does this ultimately cost? A lot. A lot of money. Billions of dollars depending on the position. To put it in perspective, just because presidential campaigns is a little bit weird because there's only a sample size of 2, Senate seats usually cost out of pocket for the person running for Senate about $42 million in order to campaign for commercials and advertisements and all that different stuff, sending letters. So these positions are definitely not cheap, to put it in perspective. Anywho, that concludes it when it comes to elections and campaigning and all that different stuff. Make sure you do the worksheet that's in RenWeb, as well as do the Google form for your assessment choice before tomorrow at midnight. Hope you guys are doing really well. Shoens out again!